Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, and thank you, fellow Toastmasters. I've spent a large part of my adult life wondering, if you live with chronic pain, how will you know how much pain is normal and how much pain is not? It was not until 6 months ago, when I was diagnosed with the autoimmune disease celiac, that I found out that no amount of pain is normal, and that I finally began, upon treatment, to get reprieve from pain that I have been feeling for most of my life. Some of you who have been in Toastmasters for a while now will remember that I joined Toastmasters in 2008. At the very end of that year, I became pregnant, and I had a son in 2009. You may have assumed that it was my busy work schedule or being a new mom that is why I was unable to maintain my commitment to Toastmasters. But really, what happened to me in those 2 years was quite different. In 2008, I started losing weight. It didn't seem to matter how much I ate, the weight just kept falling off. At one point, I had lost 20 pounds, and for me, in my body type, it was dramatic. It looked bad, and I was also, on top of that, exhausted and not sleeping well, and I just even didn't feel like going out sometimes because I didn't want to face those looks and stares of my colleagues and peers wondering, why is she so thin? And worse yet, assuming that maybe it was me doing something to make myself so thin. So I want to take a moment to talk a little bit about celiac disease, what it is, how it's treated, and how it's diagnosed.
I can try it for you.
Next slide, thank you.
Wow, it doesn't want me to do that at all. Let me try again.
Celiac disease, although it's triggered by gluten, is not a food allergy. When someone with celiac disease eats gluten, which is commonly found in oats and wheat and rye and barley, it triggers a response that impacts the small intestine and makes it nearly impossible for the small intestine to absorb any nutrients. For someone like me, what this meant was years of hospitalizations for stomach pain. I could never pinpoint what it was that I was eating, but eating food always led to intestinal cramping, bloating, and gas, and as I've said, a handful of hospitalizations over my life. Celiac disease also has other symptoms that are not gastrointestinal in nature. I myself suffered from migraines, and they were hands down the worst experience that I've ever had in my entire life. I get migraines approximately every 2 weeks. They last 3 days. I can't drive, I can't work, and I'm usually confined to my bed where I sit with ice and usually weep until the pain subsides. I've also had numerous sleep disorders and skin rashes that over the course of my life I had no idea were related to celiac disease. By January of this year, my husband and I began to really fear, with the losing weight as well as all of the other ailments that I had, that something else was really wrong. It wasn't just what was always sort of loosely diagnosed as IBS or irritable bowel syndrome. So he's very dedicated and loving and doting, and he made a long list of our ailments. And we went to see a doctor that's an infectious disease doctor in Salinas. At this point, I frankly thought I had a parasite, and I thought it lived throughout my entire body and also was inhabiting my brain, hence the infectious disease doctor. When my husband brought the list of symptoms to the infectious disease doctor, he was not very encouraging. He said to us, there's about a 50-50 chance I'll be able to find out what's wrong with you and link it to all of those symptoms. Yet, lo and behold, with a blood test and a biopsy of my small intestine, he was able to determine that every single one of those symptoms on the list that my husband had brought to him were linked to a single protein that's found in gluten and was impacting my small intestine. So how is it that this one protein found in gluten could have such an impact on a person's body with celiac disease, and how is it that eliminating gluten from one's diet can change someone's life as it has mine. The screen that's on the picture that's behind me on the screen is of a small intestine. And on the left you have a healthy small intestine, and on the right you have a small intestine that looks a lot like mine did in January of this year. The small intestine is lined with finger-like projections that are called villi. When you absorb nutrients, they're absorbed through the small intestine as they pass through the small intestine, and they must travel up, around, and over each one of these individual hair-like projections. If someone has the autoimmune response to gluten that I've had over the year, these villi are either shortened, flattened, or complete atrophy occurs, which is the case when they took an endoscopy of my small intestine. There were no villi left, and therefore I was no longer absorbing nutrients, fats, proteins, and in many cases, even water. You can leave it there, that's fine. The treatment of celiac disease may seem like a death sentence to some of you. I mean, you can never eat gluten for the rest of your life. This means that I cannot have a single bite of one of my favorite things in the world, which is chewy sourdough bread from San Francisco. Not another bite. But in fact, the prescription that I got from my doctor to not eat gluten has been a godsend. To learn when you've been in so much pain that it all stems from one thing that you're eating every day and that you can just eliminate that thing from your diet is the biggest relief I can share with you. I have, in the time that I've stopped eating gluten, my headaches have gotten quite a bit better. They're tolerable. I have no doubt in my mind that they will completely disappear one day. I have no gastrointestinal issues at all, except for when I've accidentally ingested some gluten. And I'm sleeping well, and I'm happy. In the time that I've been diagnosed, I've also had numerous friends and family who've also been diagnosed with celiac, which is a big relief, and I don't have to do it alone. There are many resources that you can visit that can learn more about celiac disease. And if you or anyone you know you think may be suffering from celiac disease, visit them or contact me. Thank you.